If you're familiar with a few of the people that work in native plants in the Twin Cities, you may have heard of this lady called Dawn Pape, and she calls herself a lawn chair gardener. That's the kind of gardening that I like to do.
Me too, the knees don't
Low
work anymore.
maintenance gardening that doesn't take a whole lot of inputs because we're all really busy, right? So we have her method over there. We have modified it a little bit, and there are lots of people that are actually doing this kind of work. So you're welcome to take one of these with you, or several copies. We can always make more copies. And it's all readily available materials besides the seeds. All of these seeds came out of our gardens here. So anything that we plant for the park and germinate for the park will probably go back into our gardens here. We are actually trying to restore the River Bluff Prairie, but there are different plants that are going to go into that prairie. So that's part of the reason we're doing this, is to try to get better at germinating, so that eventually when we can find some of the remnant plants that are in our bluff prairie, we can germinate some of those very carefully without removing too much seed, and then put those plants back. So we do have a really nice plant list. We have been very busy. The first step for our prairie restoration was to do a lot of cutting of buckthorn and black locust. So if you head out to the amphitheater today, you'll see a totally different view than you would have at the end of last summer. The black locust had gotten really tall, and it had actually obstructed the view of the river. So we went out, and actually Great River Greening is the consulting agency on our prairie restoration. So their staff have come out several times to kind of oversee and make sure we're doing the right things at the right times with the clearing of the invasive species, and then the next step will be to get good at this and do some of the seeding ourselves. So this is really easy. We will take some of these milk jugs that we've already prepped, and again, the instructions are on the lawn chair gardener instructions, but we just cut them a few inches up. We have found that you can get by without as much soil in them as what the directions call for, but this is just the cheapest soil that you can buy at Menards, and it seems to work really well. Other folks who are doing seeding do different mixes and probably spend more money on it, but this seems to work just fine. We've had pretty good success. This will be our third year, and we have had pretty good success germinating all the plants that you see. I guess we didn't really do well with nodding onion, but one of the guides that we are using is this fantastic guide that you can get from the Prairie Moon Nursery website. So they are the experts in selling prairie seeds, restoring prairies, harvesting, germinating, all that good stuff. So each plant has specific needs and a germination code associated with it. All of these plants are pretty much cold germination plants. So we're gonna put damp soil into the jugs, and then we'll take these jugs, once they're taped back up, we'll stick them in a snowbank. So if you have a sunny spot in your yard near your deck, you just stick them in a snowbank pretty much. You make sure that you keep them damp, but not like soaking wet necessarily. And then, you know, monitor them every couple of days, make sure that they don't get too hot. These little jugs become like little mini greenhouses. So it'll be freezing at night, it'll be warming up during the day, and that freeze-thaw cycle actually is what helps the seeds to grow. So it's kind of cool. And these are all great native plants. I don't think we have any native cultivars for the most part in our gardens. We have mostly native plants. Kind of a mix. We have, I think, 4 demonstration gardens if you come here in the spring or the summer. And then you can see all of these plants. We've got a prairie garden in the front of the building, sort of our entrance garden, which is really beautiful. By the bird feeding station over here, we have a mix of bushes and other flowers. We have another sort of prairie garden off to this side. We have a whole garden dedicated to butterflies, which is out across from the Little Free Library. You guys know there's a Little Free Library here? You should check it out. So feel free to grab some books from there. And a rain garden, actually. So across and to the left from the front of the building is a rain garden that has more native plants in it. So let's see, the Joe Pye weed came from the rain garden, but we also have some of that in the butterfly garden. The nodding onion really likes the spot over here by the building. Coreopsis was from the front garden. False boneset was from the front garden. We've got blazing star in a couple different locations. Gray-headed coneflower, if it's in a happy spot, can really do well. So that's kind of putting it nicely. So some of these, I guess what you'll find is they will do very well to, if they're in a happy spot, spread. I don't think we've chosen anything that is really going to be, you know, overspreading, but yeah, definitely not invasive, but sometimes what we found is people are not prepared for the growth habits of native plants because they are plants that can kind of get big, sometimes they fall over, they're just different from some of the gardening that we're used to doing. So kind of keep that in mind too. But if you have a little spot where you want to attract some butterflies and some other pollinators, this is perfect for that. All right, who wants to get their hands dirty? Fantastic. So you'll just want to push up your sleeves.
Do you recommend these gloves, or
you can use gloves if you like?
Okay.
Yeah, either one is fine, whatever you prefer.
What do you guys want to do?
The first step would be to make sure that there are holes in the bottom of your jug. Second step would be label it with a permanent marker, whatever seed you're going to put into it. So like if you want to attract monarch butterflies, the blazing stars are a really good one. Beautiful, beautiful plant. Yeah, coneflowers, all of these are really pretty good. See if I can find a picture of blazing star. You know, oops, and I'm getting pretty close. I can't breathe heavily on the aster seeds.
That's like milkweed, you get near it and it just...
Yes, we have a bunch of common milkweed, but it still has the fluff on it. Yeah. So I didn't even take any of that out.
The blazing stars, I would describe them as like the flowers you get in a flower arrangement. Long cinderella flowers in a flower arrangement that are purple and they're
beautiful.
Prairie.
And I know that we have pictures of them somewhere. We just have to grab the books. So as far as the number of seeds,
Oh, I was gonna say, you're recommending just, like monoculture in each jug?
you could do that. It probably would be easiest to do that, I think. Just because you can kind of track and monitor your progress a little bit better.
You want to limit it to a certain amount in here?
I think 2 inches of soil in the jug is pretty much fine myself. I mean,
2 cups full maybe, and then
yeah.
cover the seed with another.
Yeah, so then the size of the seed basically kind of dictates how much soil you want to sprinkle on top. It's a very, very tiny seed. You don't want to sprinkle very much soil on top of it.
And do you want it seeded so there's just one plant in the center, or do you want it so
No, I would actually seed them pretty generously.
Okay.
Like some of these I have not processed those because I kind of wanted you to see what the flowers look like. So you have to kind of break them open. And we have extra plates over there. And then you can kind of see like the nodding onion flower head. It's kind of a cool one. And then the golden Alexanders, which looks very much like dill. It's in the dill family. Nope, these are pretty much all seeds that came out of our gardens.
Okay.
So probably a lot of them will go back into our gardens, but whatever you guys want to take home, I mean, you can take some home and bring these home and like I said, just
Cold germinate in the April, May timeframe.
these guys, some of them actually you'll notice are not going to germinate until later. Like we had a few jugs that were still trying to remember. We had some that were still kind of coming out in June, actually.
Is it where they want to come off the top of the...
No, they're teeny tiny. Plant the whole bunch, but I would break them up. Like if it really does well and the seeds germinate really well, I would break those into sections. If I can find my phone, I can show you some of the little tiny little blue stem that we planted. We kind of broke it apart and planted in this garden over here, but it's, you know, if you're looking for a well-developed garden right away, you're not going to get that. You kind of have to be patient with these guys. It's going to take several years. Common milkweed does not transplant very well unless it's really tiny because they have a really deep taproot.
I'm getting the seeds out now.
So yeah, if you can kind of see what Tammy did, she kind of took some of the seeds and then she kind of raked them into the top of the soil a little bit.
Okay.
And this time actually, this time of year is a pretty good time of year to do winter scattering too, I believe.
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, so.
You scattered this the other day. What did you scatter?
Blackberry lilies.
Oh, yeah, those are.
What did you
plant?
Blackberry lilies.
Oh,
They're
cool.
actually an Irish. We should bring you some of those.
Oh, that'd be
bring you some
beautiful.
They're
seeds.
beautiful.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
they look like, they're little tiny orange flowers that look like an orchid. And you get a little bit of maroon in it.
Oh, Oh, wow.
They're actually
Iris leaves. The one that at night, when the sun goes down, the flowers screws itself closed to protect it.
Oh, wow.
That's
That's cool. That
We
would be
can bring some
wonderful.
plants even to transplant.
What we did last year is people would plant 1 jug for us and take 1 jug home. And then if you want to take some home and kind of adopt them and keep track of them for a while and then bring them back too, that would be amazing. Most of these I probably will take to my house. After we get them planted, then the next step is to tape them shut.
And you can,
So we can move some tape down here and start kind of a taping station. And then I think I'll go grab another table and we'll just set some of them on the table. Yeah.
plain old duct tape would work, or?
I think plain old duct tape would work. It's recommended that you use white duct tape so that the darker colored duct tape doesn't increase the temperature in the
Sure.
jug.
Yeah.
However, I have found that this Gorilla Tape is not that sticky. Doesn't really seem to work all that well. So, I mean, it'll probably do fine. And it seemed to do okay last year too, but by the end of the season, they were starting to kind of,
Setting them outside in the winter time.
yeah. So, yeah, and just the condensation starts to get it.
Sometimes feels like that.
Be careful of that. All the way around?
Here, I'll just leave you some. Yeah, you can
just
go,
little bits.
actually, if you want to open them, it is easier to do it in smaller strips.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
Like
you
one
can
on the
take a
side,
spray bottle and mist through the top, but sometimes you kind of have to open it up a little bit. And when it starts to get later in the season, you will want to open it up so that you don't fry the little tiny seedlings.
Sure.
Yeah, this isn't good.
Some of the stuff on the outside is less sticky. This stuff is feeling a little bit more, maybe it's just my imagination.
To the,
We have more duct tape too.
I can't do this.
Those don't work so well. Yeah, this stuff feels a little stickier towards the center of the roll.
A little bit more.
So that's good.
Super thick.
Yeah.
I'm going for it.
Yeah. Let's see if it works. Well, you guys are awesome. Thanks for coming over here to help us. There's a bunch of. All right.